School Committee meeting on Monday, April 5th. If everyone can please rise to say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to read our school committee statement. The committee represents the needs of all Leominster Public School students and places their interests above all others. We will exercise leadership, adhere to our protocols, and base our decisions upon a reasoned assessment of all available information. We will advocate for each of our schools and support high-quality public education in Leominster. If anybody in the community is going to record this, you need to please identify yourself now. As always, LTV is here to record it, and it will be available on Leominster Access TV for anybody who is not able to attend tonight. Okay, having no one come forward, I just wanted to make a quick statement to acknowledge that since our last meeting, we've obviously, as a country, has seen, attack against Asian community. I just wanted to mention that one of Leominster's great strengths is our diversity, and there certainly are supports through the school system if any student needs support given all the unrest that we've had and violence that have been perpetrated against people of color. So please reach out to your guidance counselor or your principal. There are resources through the nurse's office and other supports. And I know Dean and a number of people in the community are working to provide community supports for the Leominster population at large. But I just wanted to acknowledge that we certainly are aware of that and do have supports in place to support anybody who is struggling or is impacted by these injustices. Having said that, we're going to move on to the open forum. No one has signed up, so if someone wishes to address the committee, please unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record, please. Once again, if anybody would like to address the committee during our open forum, please unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record.
Greg Thomas, 310 Leggett Hill Road. I just want to take a couple seconds just to say thank you to everybody involved who made today possible. I know it was a lot of work, but it was just so awesome to see the kids smiling and seeing all the parents. And thank you, to everybody involved, teachers, administrators, bus drivers, and everybody else. Thanks.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the committee? One final last time, if anybody would like to address the committee, please unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record, please.
Yo, Danny Fenner.
Go ahead.
I just kind of wanted to second what Greg just responded about. The big thanks to everybody pulling together and getting the kids back into school has been a huge thing, and just big appreciation all around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the committee? All right, without anybody else coming forward, we're going to close the open portion of our meeting, and we're going to move on to the superintendent's report.
First off, there are no communications this evening.
Communications, sorry.
That's okay. I just want to echo what we just heard in the public forum. Today was exceptional. Teachers felt last night almost the jitters that we get back in the late summer before the school day really starts. And somebody passed on a quote to me that said, "Children are an expression of hope." And as I went to each one of the schools today and saw those buses pull up and the amount of students coming off with smiles and giggles and waving to people, it was just heartwarming. today was wonderful. It has been a long haul for 14 months. And we believe we have, on average, about 65% of students coming back in full time. It definitely felt more. So we are doing some recalculating to make sure that we're moving forward. Everybody was prepared. Staff was in every corner of the building. Masks were not a complaint. Hand washing or putting things on washing down tables. Everybody was helpful. Students came right in the building and they went directly to their classrooms, sat down, began working, and it was just joyful. Exhausting though. It's really tough to have all those little guys in front of you again. The children must have come home tired. I'm sure there were naps abound, but our goal right now is about return, recovery, and acceleration. We have a full quarter left to really assess where we're at, what students need, and what we need to make sure that everybody has their needs met. All we're asking right now is for people to be patient. I did reach out to the mayor a little bit this morning to say traffic was a little lengthy. There were many parent drop-offs. So, but most of the community was fine with it. I just want people to understand we have more students on bus stops again. We have more cars in motion. So just make sure that you're being patient, and whenever you can, just be kind, because this staff has gone above and beyond, and they were so excited to see all their students back. We're currently preparing for the middle and high school return on the 28th. That will be quite an overcoming to have our entire district in. We're asking that parents, if you haven't filled out the survey or communicated with your administration, whether you're staying remote or coming back, please do so as soon as possible. We're trying to tweak all the bus runs and make sure that we can accommodate all the students appropriately. So if you need to reach out at this time, I would ask that you contact your schools directly. Each school has a set of priorities that are unique to their school. So the logistic piece might seem different a little bit from one school to another about breakfast or lunch. So make sure you're asking those questions. We anticipate the phone calls. We're ready to answer whatever you need to, but your principals and your staff know those answers. We're also preparing for MCAS, and there's been a lot of conversation about it. As late as tonight at about 6:45, we received notification from the commissioner that testing is still on. Grades 3 through 8 will occur in May. It is a very abbreviated testing schedule. There is one test per subject area, and the number of items are cut in half. So grades 3, 4, 6, and 7 will have math and ELA, and 5 and 8 will have math, ELA, and science. It should not take up too much time. This is not the district's decision. It is not a state decision. This is a federal decision at this point. And the Department of Ed in Massachusetts will be using these results for some type of diagnostic on where our students are and what each district needs to move forward. Grade 10 9 and 10 have stretched out the testing window out to June 11th. So everyone has an opportunity, and there are more than ample technologies in order to accommodate any student needs. So we are preparing for that as well. All our athletics are ongoing, and we are now starting to invite fans into the stands, and parents can start to see their children play. So this has been a new feeling. I hate using the word normal, but back to typical. I have to say this past weekend was very cold in the stands. I was hoping to have one of those nice warm days. It didn't happen, but it was okay. It felt very refreshing. So we have sports, we have clubs, we have theater productions, we have music, maybe not in the typical fashion, but in a very creative fashion. And so we are looking forward to a full return as soon as possible. So please stay tuned. This information could change at a moment's notice, and we will notify you should any change occur. So let's keep it up and make sure we have more and more students coming back, and we welcome everyone and anyone. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Superintendent. So now we're going to go into executive session. Typically, this is something that happens at the end of our meeting, but we have moved it up in our agenda for this week. So I will be a voice vote. And just to remind all school committee members that you need to obviously leave completely the Zoom meeting and turn it off so that no one can hear our executive session, which is going to take place in Google Meets. And then obviously we will need to sign back into Zoom when we return. And everyone, obviously, Brandon, I think, is going to make a motion for me. Go ahead, Brandon.
So I'd like to make a motion that we enter into executive session under Chapter 39 of Mass General Law to discuss contract negotiations, and we will be returning.
All right, the vote as a voice vote. Brandon,
Yay.
Sue,
Yay.
Isabel,
Yay.
Mike,
Yay.
Peter,
Yay.
Ron,
Yay.
Melissa,
Yay.
Dean,
Yes.
and I'll be a yay, but we do want to note that Isabel will not be joining us due to a conflict of interest. So it'll be the 8 members going into executive session.
I'll be here.
You'll be there holding down the fort.
Sure.
Sing, dance, entertain everyone for us, please.
Got
All
it.
right, we'll see everybody in Google Meets. All right, let me just, we appreciate everyone waiting for us to return, so thank you very much. And I just want to make sure everybody is signing back on. I see Brandon, I see Sue, I see Isabel, don't see Mike.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Oh, there you are in the corner. Peter's here. Ron, you're here. Melissa. There's Melissa. And Dean, are you here? I don't see his phone popping up. We will give it just a second and then we'll move on. Okay, why don't we go ahead and move on? We are going to talk about presentations and it's the Keystone contract.
Yes, I'm going to ask John to come on right now. John?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, good. You stayed with us. Thank you, John.
No problem.
All right, John is the new director of what was formerly known as FLAC. We've had a name change to Keystone Collaborative. I sit on the board as the vice chair for FLAC. For Keystone. Sorry, John, you're always going to be FLAC to me.
That's okay.
There are 2 votes that John needs. So, John, I'm just going to let you take over the presentation and speak to the school committee about the votes that you need.
Sure. Our
And-
first, yep.
I was just going to say, can you join us on video so we can put a name and a face
Yes,
together?
I
That would be
can.
great.
Oh, there he is. Hey,
There
John.
you are. Thank you.
No problem. So our major vote that we have to go and present to school committee is that Keystone has had another member or a potential district that is looking to go and join on to the collaborative. So Narragansett Regional School District has requested to be able to go and join Keystone with the changeover in superintendents there. The collaborative has looked at really all the analysis of what the history and patterns of the Narragansett School District has been able to go and provide us, and looking at sort of the cost benefit component of it, so how it would affect our current members. Currently, we have a total of 11 members that are part of our collaborative, and so this would go and add in an additional 12. Currently, Narragansett, who is requesting to join us, on average, they basically go and supply us 3.4% of our student population. Leominster, in comparison, supplies us about 15.8%. When we go and look at the difference between our members versus non-members, our overall difference is a nominal fee. So when we looked at the overall comparison, if Narragansett did join us as a member, they basically would have to go and increase by 1 student, and the collaborative as a whole not only would be able to go and service another district within the catchment area, preventing families that have to relocate into different districts or part of our membership, but basically being able to go and supply them quality services that we have to Leominster and to the other members currently, but continue to go and supply those supports, as well as to go and continue in supplying consultation services within that region, which we basically relocated into the Winchendon area to one of their some of their classroom spaces. So the vote that we have is to go and for the school committee to go and agree to go and have Narragansett join the collaborative. Currently, right now, the Department of Education has reviewed the agreement and has approved it. And so far, we've had out of our 11 members, 10 school committees that have voted on it in agreement for Narragansett to go and move forward.
Would someone like any questions? And if not, then we would ask for a motion to vote on this. Brandon?
I'll make a motion that we approve Narragansett into the Keystone contract.
Could I have a second?
I'll second it.
Isabel, second it. This will be a voice vote. Brandon?
Yay.
Sue?
Yay.
Isabel?
Yay.
Mike?
Yay.
Peter?
Yay.
Ron?
Yay.
Melissa?
Yay.
Dean? Dean might not have joined us, and I'll be a yay.
Perfect.
Thank you very much for waiting so patiently. We
Thank you,
appreciate
John.
it.
It's great seeing you. Thank you
No
very
problem.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is the Esser allocation presentation.
Great. So tonight we want to present an overview. There's been a lot of talk and anticipation about federal stimulus monies coming into Leominster. Everyone's goal is to address students' needs as we seek a support for return, recovery, and an acceleration. We speak about vulnerable populations, and some that we're referring to are students who may have possible academic or social emotional gaps, maybe an early literacy gap for kindergarten and grade 1, language acquisition delays for ELL students. We have a need for interpreters and translator for family engagement, special education needs beyond just contractual services for testing and IEP assessment, but paras and OT and nurses, compensatory services. We also have an increase in student population that we did not receive Chapter 70 funding for. And majorly our summer school programming, tutoring, which is stated right in the Esser agreements, technology, and any type of mitigation or PPE services. Tonight, Laureen has been willing to speak about the 3 Esser funds. And it's important that everyone understands that Esser funds are one-time, short-term funds. The allocations are meant to fund COVID-related expenses incurred because of the pandemic. And it's really strongly recommended not to use the funds for reoccurring costs. And this does end at 2024. While some are worried that superintendents aren't using all the money immediately, there's an understanding that decision-making must be fiscally prudent and responsible. So we're hoping to be able to elongate the funds through 2024 to help navigate students out of this pandemic and onto solid academic and emotional platforms. I'd ask that you let Laureen get through the presentation before asking any questions, but she will take them at the end of the presentation. So Laureen, if you don't mind sharing your screen.
Actually, I think Steve is going to, he's going to run the show for me.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Make sure that you can hear me. Paula, thumbs up?
Yes. Yep, thumbs up.
Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, again, good evening. Paula has asked that I provide you with specifics regarding the elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds, which we have referred to as Esser, and we will continue to refer to it because it's a mouthful, and the procedures that Leominster will follow to take advantage of this opportunity for our students. So I'm just going to quickly go through the funding and the timeline. Esser 1 is funding that Leominster has already applied for. We applied for it last spring. And you see the amount is $1,264,914. The funding is allowed to be spent through September of 2022. And There was or is a component, so we were required to provide some of these funds to the private/parochial schools. Approximately 85,000 of our total allocation has gone to the parochials. Esser 2 has already come through the state, and they've given us a request for proposal that's out right now. We have not applied for it. We are getting ready to apply for it in April. There's $4,990,000 here. The asterisk that goes with this is there's a portion of the funding that is allowed to be spent on the city's contribution of Chapter 70 funds. And the way the formula works is the increase in Chapter 70 funds from 2021 to 2022 may come out of these funds if it's needed by the city. So that right now, based on the House budget, is about $1.2 million. Again, this may be used for it if it's necessary. This will go through September of 2023. And there is one piece which is required within the grant proposal for a minimum of $10,000 for student mental health. There are a number of other requirements, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. Esser 3, which has just come out, has federal guidelines for us now, but no guidance from the state yet. And there's no RFP that's come from the state. And that's why I'm saying there's approximately $11,797,000. This is what we've heard from our legislative people in Washington. So we don't have a specific amount yet, and we don't have the ability to actually write the plan for this one yet. This will run through September of 2024. And at this time, we do know that they're requiring a minimum of 20% of our grant funds to be used for evidence-based interventions. And that's a very specific definition that we're accustomed to when we're writing for federal grants. Thanks, Steve. Some questions have come up as to why we haven't written and started using all of these funds. And so I just wanted to remind everyone of some of the other funding that has come our way this year that we did not know about, but we are making very good use of. So the COVID Relief Fund, the school reopening grant, that we received $1.369 million. And that money needs to be spent by the end of June. So in just a couple of months. Another opportunity that we took advantage of was the Remote Learning Technology Essentials Grant, $349,000. This again needs to be spent by the end of June. And we've talked before about the City CARES Act through the mayor's office. They allowed us to spend a portion of what they received on the municipal side, which was over $2 million. And this actually has already been spent. So that was on items that we needed from September until December of 2020. So this $3.5 million has been spent, or has been encumbered, and will all have been spent by the end of June. And it was a recommendation from the Department of Education, as you would imagine, that we spend the money first that has the closest deadline. So that's what we have done. Steve? Well, I lost Steve. We'll just talk about, there are allowable expenditures. There they are, thanks. Allowable expenditures, and there's a whole long list of them. I have cobbled some of them together so I didn't have to take up pages. But one of the important things is we are allowed to spend this money on any activities already authorized for existing federal education programs. So the title programs that we are used to and we know all of the regulations for, as well as the IDEA, which is our special education funding. So anything that would have been allowed under those existing title and IDEA grants is allowed as expenditures here. Along with that, clearly, technology, remote learning supports, and other activities. One of the most important is summer and supplemental after-school opportunities, and we're working on that now. Clearly, the response and preparedness, for COVID, and that 3.5 million that I told you about was spent on those things. So technology and the response and preparedness for our schools and for safety and for PPE. So these are just some of the big pieces, or as we call them, the big buckets of allowable expenditures. Just like with all of our other grants, we need to write a narrative and provide a budget to give to the State Department of Education, and then they approve our narrative and they approve our budget based on the guidance from the federal government. It had pretty much gone through this, but again, what we spent our money on so far this year, clearly we needed the PPE, and there were some good ticket items for school facility repairs and to worry about the air exchange. New Elliot Nadeau has really worked hard, our facilities director, to make sure that everything that we needed to have done to get the schools in good shape, to be safe for our students, our families, and our teachers has been done. For remote learning, we spent a lot of money on technology and also the ability to get wireless for our students to provide for or to lessen the equity gap wherever possible. We purchased a number of curriculum products that were remote. So many of the products that we hadn't accessed all of the remote pieces or the online pieces. We purchased the subscriptions for this year so that our students could take advantage of this, and the teachers could continue with the curriculum products that the students were familiar with, and professional development as well as adjusted staffing. Paula and Jim have worked hard to add some positions just for this year that would support the remote learning. Other things as we're going forward and luckily moving away from remote and hybrid to in-person learning, we're still buying furniture to keep us between 3 and 6 feet apart, lots of desks, and we're moving forward with assessment of our students' learning gaps and their gains. We're hoping to position ourselves well in this last quarter of the month to be ready to work on the gaps that we may find, and also to be able to report to you on our successes and the students' gains. So going forward with Esser 2 and Esser 3, we spend a lot of time with our stakeholders, gathering information when we are writing plans. These are all groups of people that you've heard us talk about in the past. So the school leadership teams, the district leadership teams, each school has a school improvement council, which feeds into the school improvement plans. Clearly, we're working with our students and families, with our CPAC and our LPAC. Our parent liaisons are vital to reach out to our students and families to determine their needs for remote and hybrid learning. We've been working with all of the unions, and we will continue to do that. Kathy Gaudette has been great working with the public health representatives. So we will be getting information from all of them to write our plan for Esser 2 and Esser 3. Just to give you a little bit of the what do we do when we're planning? These are some questions that we put in place to ask ourselves as we write our narrative and as we decide how we're going to spend our money. Will the proposed funds, and this is right from the federal government, quote, prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus? We are very glad that we are moving toward the respond to piece. So we're looking forward to spending this money on the response going forward. And the next one is obviously one of the district overall umbrellas, but is also a federal mandate. Does it promote equity? Does it support returning students to the classroom? And in Leominster's case, not just returning them, but keeping them in the classroom and keeping them in the classroom safely. Does it support students' academic, social, and emotional needs? And that's really what I'm referring to as to the response going forward. This is really where the bulk of the money will be spent to support our children going forward for the next 2 years in making sure that the traditional schooling lack or gap has been addressed. And again, are they allowable use of funds? I do believe that Paula put in your packet some of the opportunities that we have already planned for the summer. We're not done planning. We're still, as a group, hard at work planning for these summer offerings. But to let you know, in addition to what we normally have, sorry, I shouldn't be using that normal word, Paula.
Traditional.
In addition to the traditional summer opportunities, we will be providing enrichment. So enrichment camps and enrichment for K-5 and 6 through 12. The special education programs and the opportunities for students with individual education plans is already in place. The credit recovery program that we started 2 years ago with Edgenuity, which is an online platform. The decision has been made to support students by waiving tuition for this year. So if there are children who did not pass a course or did not receive all of the learning that they needed to get over the threshold, they will have the opportunity to do that in the summer. And of course, we're still working with our higher ed partners, lots of courses and students taking advantage of dual enrollment this summer. These courses are free to them, and they will be when they are successful at the end of the course, they will have college level credit. Pittsburgh State University and Mount Wachusett are our 2 higher ed partners in the area. So we are working with them to provide for our students this summer. And if that wasn't enough, just to remind you of some of the other opportunities that we are working towards. We're still aggressively pursuing all types of grants, whether they come through the state or federal Department of Education, or some of them that come through private endowments. The high school science department with Michelle Oliveri and Gretchen Kuna have just put in a proposal to the Math Life Science Equipment Program. We are working on a GLEAM proposal. This is a large ELA program that we're going to be using, or we're going to try to target grades 6 through 9. And there are a variety of other ones that we're working on. Just so we're not just looking at our Esser grants, wanted to give you an idea of some of the other things that were up and we'll have proposals in this spring. Okay, I talked a lot, sorry.
Thank you, Laureen. Are there any questions for Laureen at this time?
So I'm just going to call people. Brandon, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. So first, thanks for the presentation. It was great, very helpful. I know there's a lot of conversation around these monies right now. The ESSER 3 money, do we have any idea when we'll be able to apply for those?
I believe that within a month, the state is expecting to have an RFP out to us.
Okay.
So generally it comes out and we have 4 to 6 weeks after that to apply.
Actually, I think that's it for right now. Thank you.
All right, Sue?
Okay, so we talked about assessment, which is a really large component of the kids going back to school. about how much are we going to be spending on assessment? And then the follow-up to that, the outcome of assessment would be, like mental health needs and things like that. So can you speak to that?
Yes, good question, Suzanne. We currently have a program that came up, we call MAP, Measure of Academic Progress. That's something that we do every year in the fall, winter, and spring. We have already contracted for that through our title grants. We will be giving that assessment in the spring and then analyzing the difference student by student from their fall of 2020 to their spring of 2021. So we're not waiting for this MCAS that's coming out. We will be doing that in May. We have not purchased an additional assessment program because we're very happy with that K through 8. We are looking for 9th and 10th grade to provide a formative assessment, and that's money that we will need to put forward. The district also already uses title funds to purchase a survey tool. It's a research-based survey tool from a company called Panorama. We've just finished doing a survey of children, and that's providing us with information. They're punching the numbers, so to speak, at right now, and that's about their emotional and mental health situation, or their replies to that. So we've got assessments that we're either have finished or we're getting ready to do this spring, and we don't have those results, but those results are really going to determine where we're going to go forward when we hit the ground starting the end of August or beginning of September.
Another point, Sue, if I may, one of the things that we learned this year is that for special education testing, we contracted a school psychologist to do just testing so that our school psychologists could work with students and families. We are looking to continue with those services. If we can contract outside, get through the tasks of those IEPs and the assessments and leave our staff in place, that's where they need to be. They need to be in classrooms. They need to have time to work with children and to make sure that the hours and the services are provided. So we're looking for contractual services as well.
All right. Do we wait around the summer school issue? Do you plan any, I see enrichment and credit recovery. Do you, are you going to open it up to other kids, or, I think there should be opportunities for everyone during this. Go ahead.
So we're organizing. We've talked to the rec department and hoping that they also have a full menu, which it looks like they're going to do quite a bit in the city. I'm actually really excited about summer school because we have drama opportunities, we have art opportunities, we have music, we're having a robotics, we're having STEM. So it's not just about intervention, academic intervention, it's about fun. Some of the programs are 1 week, some are 3 weeks. We're elongating our special education a little bit. So the opportunities K through 12 will be there, and anything that staff is bringing to us now saying, hey, did you think about this? We're trying to incorporate it. We want students to just enjoy having some socialization and engagement as much as taking care of the academics. At the elementary level, if parents want their students, any grade level, to just keep their skills going for a 3-week period, we're going to offer mathematics, reading, science, so it doesn't have to be about regression. It's about acceleration. So there's going to be a little bit of something for everyone. Creative Choices is still wide open. We are utilizing every one of our buildings and just filling them up with programming. We need students and children just out enjoying each other again. So we're putting all our eggs into that basket right off the bat.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that was a great question. Thank you, Sue, for clarifying that.
Isabel?
No, my only question was when we would be able to apply for Esser 3. And Brandon had asked that already. So I just know the state is having a hard time receiving the funds that were allocated in the American Rescue Plan. And so that was my only question. So just to clarify, ESSER 3 is coming from the American Rescue Plan, for folks who may have had some confusion with that in the past, because it does get tricky to follow along with all three ESSER, and they're all named ESSER 1, 2, and 3. But just to clarify. So thank you so much. I appreciate the presentation to clarify all the confusion that's been out there on these funds.
And as soon as
you.
we get the RFP from the state, Paula will let you know so that you'll have a more definite timeline for that.
Mike?
My questions have been answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter?
Just to clarify and expand a little bit more on the assessment for this spring. For the RFP for ESSER 3 and then the money we already have from ESSER 2 that can get carried forward. I mean, there's obviously some potential expenses next year that we can imagine, but based off of what the assessments kind of say, I'm guessing that will direct how we're going to use some of the money, in addressing that over the next, year or two.
Absolutely. I will say that we have a great foundation at the elementary level in ELA with tier 1, tier 2, and even some tier 3 interventions and supports. I do believe that from the results of the assessment, we will need to be looking for some evidence-based supports for middle school and most likely the 9th and 10th grade level of high school, where they're still learning some of the skills that they would then incorporate into higher level thinking later on. So yes, those assessments will definitely drive what we're going to be looking to give professional development on and then implement. And I do believe it is going to take us a couple of years. We know we've come to you before with the idea that we do have gaps among some of our high needs students and their learning. Those gaps are still there. And so we will certainly be using these funds to support the lessening of those gaps while we're also helping every single one of our children. So it's a good opportunity to use these funds.
Okay. And so the applications obviously aren't very limiting in terms of, when we submit for, 3 is the only one that's left, but, when we request that money, it's not going to pigeonhole us into, a specific thing. We can be fairly broad with our needs. It sounds like.
Absolutely. That's a good point, Peter. That part of the whole process includes amendments to grants. And so over the life of the entire grant period, we can amend at least 2 times. And that could include saying, this is the narrative. We've done additional assessment. We would like to move money from this area into another area. And these are the reasons why. And then the state reviews that and either approves our amendment or asks us to go back and give more information. So we do have the opportunity to amend the narrative in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Lorraine basically answered most of my questions, but it's just that all of a sudden she picked at my brain because the PPE consumables. There's a big push. There's a big push to have people use 2 masks instead of 1. How is that going to affect us?
So as I mentioned, we listen to Kathy and we listen to the public health experts. So Kathy Gaudette is in touch with the local and state. One good thing is that these monies do go over an extended period. So if the guidance changes, we have the ability to respond to that money. So if in fact we need to purchase more next August, we can do that. We don't need to guess now and try to bank these things or end up with a storage problem. So we will be able to respond if the recommendations change.
The other question that I had, and it's, please forgive me for my question. you know, when you had the additional, when it wrote down additional funding 2021 school year, the COVID reopening grant, you know, with the fear that they have with the fourth wave coming down, are they going to increase that amount that they got we got right here, 1,369,000? Is there a potential for it to increase in that, or have you heard anything?
No.
Or am I just
I
jumping
don't
in it?
believe that, I don't believe that there is, because the Esser funds 1, 2, and 3 also provide for us to purchase PPE and to do any upgrades to facilities. So I have not heard of any. Paula, I'm not sure if
Nope.
you have.
No, not at this time, not yet.
All right, I was just, please forgive me. I just, you know, you gave a very good presentation, and I was looking over and all of a sudden I saw this and I said, oh God, should I ask her that? And
Yep.
because I don't want to put you on the spot, but you know.
Guidance changes every day.
Oh, I know.
And we're staying on top of that. And so should there be a need, it's nice to know that we have the funding to do it immediately.
Yeah, yeah. You know, when you say that, Paula, and I just bit my tongue, Lorene, with the funding, as you were saying, is there going to be a hang time for waiting for the funding to come in, or is it just going to be, it'll just continue? You know, you get my drift?
Yes, these funds are coming through the state the same way as our other federal funds do. So we are provided 10% of them as soon as our proposal is approved. And then every month we ask for or draw down funds based on what we are spending or what we anticipate to spend the following month. So we get it, we get it within a month. We actually get it within about a week of asking for it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, okay.
Great. Melissa?
Hi. So I think the map testing that you were referring to generally applies to like our youngest kids, our elementary school kiddos, right?
K through 8, we use
Okay.
it.
Okay. So is there discussion about being able to assess all of our kids, some who are just now going back and some who potentially aren't going back at all until August or September, to see where they are before they start in September? Because I know the map testing is great, having done some of it at home myself now, but it misses things like handwriting skills on a kindergartner and first grader and things like that.
You are right, Melissa. There's only so much that we can do for the children that are staying remote. I think our teachers and our building level administrators have done a great job at troubleshooting formative assessment. The children that are coming in, and as Paula said, there's about 65% of the children will be coming in. So they will be receiving formative assessments in addition to MAP. I can't say that we're going to hit them all. I'm making a note though, Melissa, about some of those screeners that we tend to do in person for K and 1, and we'll put our heads together about that. Paula can certainly get back to you.
Thank you. That's all.
Dean?
Yes. So, Lorene, a couple of things. In your initial discussion, great job. But is there any way that you can put some numbers behind? So when we say, well, we spent a lot on PPEs and we spent a lot on ventilation, can we get a breakdown of where exactly that money went? Like how much of it went to ventilation? What projects were done? So when someone asks or hears information that might not be exactly correct, that we can refer back to that and say, no, right here it says we spent $369,000 on ventilation at Pre-Street School or Fallbrook School. So can we get a breakdown of how that money was spent? That would be helpful. Number two, I think it's critical. I think you keep hearing this over and over, but I can't emphasize enough how important it is, to me at least, and the parents that I talk with every day, to have an assessment done on every single student and to be able to communicate back to those parents is exactly where their student is right now. And I think, Lorene, you brought up something that's even more important, which is you have data from before that you can share. So I think every parent, it needs to be communicated where they were, where they're at now. And then we need to use this money that's coming in from the federal government to make sure that we bring kids back up to speed and beyond. But we have to be able to quantify that. Unless we know where they were, and unless we know where they are now, we'll never be able to measure their success unless we know that. So even if it means that we have to hire people temporarily to communicate the message to the parents as to where they are, and to facilitate back with, and I would expect that there's going to be more guidance people needed to be able to make sure that every student is progressing along. So I don't know how you do that. It's your freedom to be able to do that, but I need to absolutely make sure that I can tell every parent that their child has already been assessed prior, in a year before, if I'm hearing that correctly, that they're going to be assessed again and know exactly where the student is now. And we're going to monitor them all the way through so that we can show that we use this money to bring kids back up to speed and beyond. So is that the case, and will that be done?
Yes, so I've made notes, Dean. We certainly can come back to the committee with specifics as to the funding code. Mel in the business office and I have been working very closely to code all of the expenses so we can put them into the buckets. We'll put it into a report that will make some sense. And then the assessment, one important thing, we assessed in the fall. Many of the students were remote. So we will have a good picture of what happened during the pandemic from fall to spring. We're also assessing, we have the ability to measure our students against national norms. So we measure them two ways. We measure their progress, but then we can also measure and report on their progress as compared to what a typically developing third grader might do. So we have the ability to do that. We will be needing to do something for our 9th and 10th graders, and we've already been looking at evidence-based programs. But yes, we're with you, Dean. We need to do the same thing, and it is important because we need our parents to help us with this. So when we identify it, they're going to be our partners in moving forward with any gaps that we may have incurred with children's schooling loss.
Right, absolutely. And I think and I don't expect that you're going to put a report together of every penny you spent and drop everything. I'm not suggesting that at all. But I think in the end, we want to be accountable, and we want to be able to explain to people, if it comes up, we have spent, X amount of dollars here. We have spent this much. And if not, then it just becomes hearsay as to what we did or didn't do. And also, I think it was today or Friday that Mr. Nadeau came down and loaded up on supplies at emergency management. So we still have skids filled with PPEs and hand sanitizer and masks, and those paper masks should be replaced almost every day or two at the most, and strongly encourage that. We're down to 84 cases today, which is the lowest we've been since October. And hopefully we're going to maintain that, and we've learned a lot from the beginning of when this all started. We've learned a whole lot more, but I think it's so important that the parents understand that they are the partners in this, and that they've got to help us along the way to help get their student either caught up and then, sort of forge ahead. But will we get the data at the end of this testing so that you'll be back to say, hey, listen, at the 3rd grade, what we noticed, and we've done this in the past where we've said, hey, listen, we're doing our budget. We need to add another teacher. We need to add a new program to help kids get, we're struggling in math. We usually do this as a result of MCAS. We're struggling a little bit in math. We've got to pick it up in the 4th grade or the 3rd grade or whatever. And so you'll be coming back because that's where we're going to be spending our money, correct? In those areas so we're not just doing it, kind of blindsided. We're actually doing it strategically because it's evidence-based. We're saying we're going to put a 4th grade teacher in math wherever the position might be, because it's strategically aimed at improving those student scores. So we'll get brought along as you evaluate the data and then strategically plan ahead for it.
Absolutely. You mentioned math, and it does seem across the country a big concern that new learning in math was difficult to do remotely. So we're looking right away at, okay, where are our children with math? It may mean that Next year, we're going to be creative. We tapped some Fitchburg State students or Mount Wachusett students to tutor kids, tutor some of our students, maybe one-on-one or small groups. So that whole like traditional way of maybe trying to lessen the achievement gap, that's certainly going to be there, but we've got to come up with some other things. And I believe these funds will allow us to do that, but we will certainly justify the use of the funds and why we're targeting certain areas like fourth grade math, as you mentioned.
Right. And I can't stress enough, the whole mass life science issue and the grants. These were once only available to college students. For grants for students to be able to get internship. Now they've extended that to high school students. The head of mass life science and their staff called us specifically. It called us out of everybody and said, please put in for these grants. They strongly encourage us. The job opportunities for our students are more prevalent and more available to anybody because most of the manufacturing that's going on right now, R&D is happening in Boston and Cambridge, and that's probably not going to change. But on the manufacturing end, it's this area that's getting all of those jobs. So it's only to our students' benefit, to encourage as many students to at least explore, life science, because the jobs are right here and they don't have to travel very far, and they're good paying jobs, and we have a really good rapport with Mass Life Sciences. So they actually called and purposely and strategically asked us to make sure that we applied for those the various grants. There were a couple of different components, and they had somebody on the phone from each group that represented each piece of those grants and those internships. So I'm hopeful that that we're able to get some of the internships and that we're able to get some of the funding because this is really critical for our area. Many of the people that work at Bristol Squibb and a lot of these life science places live here, right here in the community, right in our own community. And it's probably more people that live in our community than anywhere else that work at these life science on the manufacturing end and on R&D. So very, very critical for our students to be exposed to it. And we have like some of the best science teachers there are. We just got to get kids interested in it, and hopefully these life science grants and for equipment, et cetera, will really help us to encourage them to at least look at it as an opportunity down the road.
I must say, Dean, the relationship that we have with Wendy in your office, part of it was from the CARES money that the city allowed us to spend. So she's been a wealth of knowledge, and so we hear from her all the time. We want to continue to hear from her. Any opportunities that you hear of through your pipelines, we absolutely want to know about them, and we certainly will aggressively pursue them.
Well, like I said, when they call us to strongly suggest that the head of Mass Life Science and his team gets on the phone on a conference call and strategically targets us and says, please get your application in. That means something to me. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. To sort of piggyback on what Dean was saying, I'm presuming that these assessments and where children are at are going to be ready in time for folks, if needed, to take advantage of the increased offerings for our various summer programs, so parents can make plans early enough to make sure that they're, assisting their kids getting the supports that they need.
The timeline is very short. I mean, I will say we do have to put time in place for the MCAS assessments, as well as the measures of academic progress. Renee Costa, who works closely with me, already has that schedule done. We are asking teachers, because the third quarter report cards are going out now, standards-based report cards at the elementary level. We've asked the teachers to very closely look at those and provide the information and communicate with the parents already where they see that students may not have been able to demonstrate mastery of it. So we'll do our very best, whatever formative assessment we can get done. But I also think that we want to promote these summer programs for all children and do that now. And we will certainly start that, so that whether there is an achievement gap or a social emotional learning gap, I think we want to say to everybody, we're open this summer. We have wonderful opportunities. Send your children to us. So you make a good point, Eileen, and we'll do our best to communicate everything we have to them.
And I'm presuming we have sufficient staff to staff all these programs, because that would be also an increase.
We have, we certainly have the funding to be able to do that. We've put out postings for all of the summer programs. We're also going to be looking to Fitchburg State and Mount Wachusett, so some of their undergraduate students. Our teachers have been working really hard this school year, and we're now
They might need a vacation.
Well, we're going to ask them
Excuse
to now work for us, but that's one of the reasons, as Paula mentioned, we're doing 1 week sessions for enrichment and then 3-week sessions for intervention. So we're trying to see if we can get a teacher to work 3 weeks instead of the traditional 5 or 6. Okay, you can work 1 session of 3 weeks for us and still have plenty of vacation. So Jim Riley in HR and our building administrators are going to be our sales people for this one.
Yeah, it is definitely a balancing act, because we do want people to rejuvenate as well, and sort of take that time for self-care. But we also, want to make sure that our students are either being enriched or being able to close the gaps that exist already. So thank you very much for your presentation. At this point, we're going to move on to approval of the minutes. If I can have a motion to approve the minutes from March 15th, 2021.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Are there any comments, corrections, omissions? No? Awesome. Chris? It's going to be a voice vote. We've got Brandon.
Yay.
Sue?
Yay.
Isabel?
Yay.
Mike?
Yay.
Peter?
Yay.
Ron?
Yay.
Melissa?
Yay.
Dean?
Yay.
And I'll be a yay. The motion carries. We'll move on to the subcommittee reports. Finance Committee. Mike?
Yep, Finance met last week on Thursday, continuing to review the budget for next year, making progress. We have a lot of meetings ahead of us. We also met tonight to conduct some business, which includes some warrants to approve. If you'd like, I will do those now.
Yes, please.
Okay, so from the general fund, we have warrant 35 totaling $2,112,981.84. Warrant 36 totaling $238,348.19. Warrant 37 totaling $2,113,140.72. Warrant 38 totaling $4,034,086.34. And warrant 39 totaling $2,278,474.11. From grants and revolving, we have warrant 35 totaling $148,145.68. Warrant 36 totaling $37,444.55. Warrant 37 totaling $422,595.92. Warrant 38 totaling $184,266.47. And warrant 39 totaling $167,750.40. Finance has reviewed and approved those, so I make a motion that we approve the warrants as read.
Do I have a second? Sue? Any questions or comments? Okay, it's going to be a voice vote. Brandon?
Yay.
Sue?
Yay.
Isabel?
Yay.
Mike?
Yay.
Peter?
Yay.
Ron?
Yay.
Melissa?
Yay.
Dean?
Yes.
And I'll be a yay. Motion carries. Thank you. Anything else from the Finance Subcommittee?
Just that we are proceeding with the expectation that we'll have a completed budget in time for a hearing in May, as we usually do. If I remember correctly, we have always presented the budget to the school committee at a prior meeting and then had the hearing at 2 weeks later. So I'll leave it up to you. It's possible that you'll want to schedule a special meeting because I don't think we're scheduled for another one in April currently. So,
We have one
just
in
a
April
thought.
because of school vacation week. Yeah.
Right. But of course, we're doing this remotely, so I'm not sure that has to apply the same way it used to, but it's up to you. Obviously, if we wait to present the budget in the first meeting in May, then we wouldn't be able to have the hearing until late in May, which is still, I guess, sort of in time, but I'm sure that the mayor would prefer to have our request sooner. And I'd like to be done sooner. So
Okay. Maybe Chris, you can send out an email to see, people's availability either that Tuesday of school vacation week or maybe the Monday following school vacation week, and get a consensus from the group. I mean, I'm flexible with other dates. I just threw those out randomly because we may not necessarily want to interfere with city council. It all depends what's going on. Okay.
that's it.
All right, thank you. Ron, is there anything from the policy subcommittee?
No, there's nothing from the policy. We didn't have a meeting.
Okay, thank you. So we move down to action items, and grant approval is there?
Yes, we'd like to apply for the 21st Century Grant, and we need school committee approval in order to move forth.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion? Sue?
Motion to approve.
And so Sue and Dean will be the motion in the second. Is there any discussion on this? All right, it will be voice vote. Brandon?
Yay.
Sue?
Yay.
Isabel?
Yay.
Mike?
Yay.
Peter?
Yay.
Ron?
Yay.
Melissa?
Yay.
Dean?
Yay.
And I'll be a yay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Then we have surplus equipment.
Yes, we've had time to clean out our closets, and we are seeking permission to discard obsolete or broken technology.
Sounds like a plan. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make
Yes,
a
I'll
motion.
that we declare the property listed as surplus.
That'll be Mike, and then Ron will be the second. Any discussion? All right, be voice vote. Brandon?
Yay.
Sue?
Yay.
Isabel?
Yay.
Mike?
Yay.
Peter?
Yay.
Ron?
Yay.
Melissa?
Yay.
Dean?
Yes.
And I'll be a yay. Motion carries. Now we're down to new and old business. In our packets was included the human resource report and the enrollment report.
Those are there for your review.
Yep. Does anybody have any questions, or does anybody else have something to add for new or old business?
Sue does.
I do.
Sue?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wonder, what is a psychometrist?
Where are you, Sue?
On the personnel report, the second position, it's a new position, psychometrist.
Where is Jim? Oh, there he
Yeah,
is.
that's a fancy way of saying someone who analyzes data. So I don't have a degree in psychometrics, but I analyze data. There are people who have degrees, and so it's assessment data, whether it's for individual students or for trends for the district. Sorry, Jim, I didn't mean to step on you.
So it's an someone that measures assessment?
The data.
The data.
Yes.
Student
Okay.
achievement data.
And what's an SSC teacher?
Student Support Center
Okay,
program that we have in our elementary school.
Yep.
Yep.
okay. Thank
Does
you.
does anybody else have anything under new or old business?
I have something on the new business.
Sure, go ahead, Dean.
So we're one of the communities identified to reach those that are the most difficult to reach. It might be a language barrier, could be a number of reasons, age, disability, homebound, and we are and have been, our staff is on the phone every day through the weekend nights, and we're trying to reach that population. So if there's anybody that comes across a circumstance where somebody's elderly, might be a language barrier, any of those issues I just talked about and more, contact our office so that we can get them vaccinated. We first want to make sure that A, they're okay, B, that they have all the information they could possibly need about making a decision about the vaccine. And then if they want the vaccine, we can get them scheduled, we can get them transportation, but we are one of the communities that are receiving funding and hopefully staffing soon, because we've been doing it pretty much all ourselves right now. We personally call, bang on people's doors, whatever it takes to try to, only 4% of the Latino Spanish-speaking community has been vaccinated, and we need to get those numbers up. And there
Dean,
are
are
a lot
you
of
partnering with the Spanish American Center
Oh
at
yeah,
all to
oh yeah,
reach that population?
we've got the Haitian community, Ghana, Portuguese. I mean, we got them all. But we need to get those numbers up as a community in terms of vaccination. So if there are teachers listening tonight, guidance counselors, custodians, food work, anybody, and they know of anybody, call our office. It's 534-7500 extension 0, and we'll get them vaccinated.
I'll give that message to our parent liaisons and have them spread the word. And also our LPAC has a meeting coming up, so they can also promote it.
Please and thank you. Yes.
And Dean, is it going out in several different languages, whatever you're disseminating?
Yes, and again, we've been
Perfect.
reaching out to churches, and Spanish Center has, I don't know, 40 or 50 people that'll be vaccinated this week, but we've got to get those numbers up. We'll be going into factories, manufacturing, businesses, whatever it takes to get it done. And that includes, as I said, banging on doors, but we've got to get those numbers up.
Awesome.
Can I just
Melissa?
ask, so is that, do they have to meet the state criteria, I assume, and under this program, like they have to be 65 and up or have
No.
2 comorbidities, or it's just
No.
for this, it's whoever's in
last
this
mile.
community and needs the vaccine?
Whoever is that last mile, that's the hardest
Okay.
to reach population is the population. Like we've done all the high rises, and I mean we're pretty high. We're like 75% on those older than 75 and older for their first shot, and 65% on anybody 65 and older that got their first shot. So we're doing well there. It's reaching those other populations where there may be misinformation about the vaccine, and they might not want to get it because hearsay or information they got through third party, and for whatever it might be, or just a difficult time navigating the internet, or it might be a language barrier, and so we're trying to blast through all of those to reach that population. So there's no age requirement. There's nothing really. It's just they have to meet the criteria of that.
What are the projections, Dean? What are your projections? How many do you? What's the litmus test that you need to show that you've gotten them, that you have achieved what you're looking for?
Oh, well, I mean, to get
You're
as many
saying
people
that
as possible.
you gave an example for the Hispanic community and the other communities of different languages, but what's the number you're looking for to having how many people you want to get?
75-85% minimum.
And when are you gonna, when you achieve that, are you gonna push that out?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, I mean, that's what this whole program is all about: getting everybody a vaccine that wants one. And people have had a difficult time navigating the internet and chasing sites, and the state changes the site. They change it's just very difficult for some people. We have a list of people that are homebound that can't get out of the house to get a shot, so we'll be going into their houses to administer the shot. So we've got it all covered. It's just a matter of reaching some people who want the shot that just haven't been able to somehow or another communicate to us that they want the shot, or there may be some sort of a information that's going out that's reaching that population that says don't get the shot, it's dangerous, and there's so many side effects to it, and the side effects outweigh the virus. So we just want to make sure they're getting all the information they need, and then they can make an honest and intelligent decision on whether they get the vaccine or not, and then we can get them the vaccine if they want. So anybody just send them our way. We'll qualify them, and I don't think that's a big issue. So next week, for instance, I think we have 600 or 800 of the Johnson & Johnson, or a combination of the two. So it's coming in, and we do this right at the mall, and we can get transportation, and hopefully next week we'll have the state's given us $150,000 to help hire people to help us to do the outreach. And then we have a number of organizations that are helping as well. But the faster we can get those numbers up, the better it is for everyone.
Dean, have you considered some of our seniors, and by seniors, I mean our 18-year-old high school students before they go off to college?
Well, the state right now and the federal government is evaluating that because it's the under 30 population that's really, I mean, we're down to 84 now cases,
Right.
and I'll bet you that most of them right now. So yeah, they're looking, well, as of April, what is it, the 19th or the middle of the month, everyone is now eligible for a shot. So
Right.
yeah, that will include everybody. And
That's
hopefully
great.
they get it. Hopefully they get it. I mean, the data I've seen says that they're concerned about getting the shot and the side effects long term.
Yeah.
But we'll see when it comes available. So, my job's not to force everybody to get a shot. My job's to just make sure they have all the information and they can decide whether they want a shot or not. And then to get them the shot later. But we've done very well. But it's been labor intensive to the fact where it's 12 hours a day sometimes, and it's 7 days a week, and that's all they do. And then the calls come in, and then you've got to schedule them. They got to call and remind people to come. But it's well worth it because our most vulnerable population is over 75, and so our numbers are higher than the state right now in terms of reaching that population. But we've got to do much better on the other end.
That's wonderful, and everybody who's working that hard needs to be, commended for their commitment to keeping Leominster healthy and safe. So thank you to you and your staff for doing that. Is there anything else under new or old business?
I just want to make sure we haven't missed something on the Keystone, because we started that conversation with the statement that we needed 2 votes and we've only had 1 vote. We voted to approve Narragansett being added. Are we supposed to also vote to approve the contract or not? Is there a second thing that we're supposed to do tonight that we haven't done?
No, he was satisfied, and he already has the minutes, so we're all set.
Okay.
Thank you.
Peter, did you have something?
Yeah, it was just something quick. I'm glad that Sue brought up the psychometrist. I did research on it when I saw it, so I'm glad to see it's a new position because obviously I'd never seen it before. But after researching it, I'm pretty optimistic of what the potential of having someone in house that studies that data because they can look at the trends, and if we act on it, I think it will go a long way in dealing with any of the social emotional stuff that from this past year and just in general moving into the future. So I'm glad that it was highlighted because I was debating on whether or not to point that out.
Good job.
At least you looked it up. I didn't.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? If not, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Brandon, okay, it's going to be a voice vote. We've got Brandon,
Yes.
Sue,
Yay.
Isabel,
Yes.
Mike,
Yay.
Peter,
Yay.
Ron,
Yep.
Melissa,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
and I'll be a yay. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Arrivederci.